Good morning everyone. This is Kamikawa Kaolin. Koreans lie. Chinese people were still better. Is the word of an old lady who lived on the pre-war peninsula. In South Korea, similar to China, for the benefit of our nation, our people, and our family for a long time. There is an ethical view that allows falsehood, distortion, and fabrication. Without feeling guilty, I withdrew my previous words and lied to lies, to win. Lies, forgery, fraud, tears, tells, threats, blackmail, takeovers, and so on, using all sorts of gangster-like means, developing victim business. This is justice in Korea. I can't trust what Korea does. Japan, the Philippines, and Taiwan are not the only ones who hate South Korea who is willing to lie in this way. South Korea's unmanned behavior is treated as a nuisance from all over the world. The British BBC also reports. The BBC conducts large-scale image surveys of major countries on an irregular basis. In the EU, such as the United Kingdom, the United States, and Asia, in addition to China and Japan, South Korea is also targeted. Generally, there are many positive opinions from each country, but only South Korea is characterized by a high rate of being listed as a country that it dislikes. According to the latest 17-year survey, China is by far the top anti-Korean player with 71%. Brazil is in second place with 46%. France in third place is 44%, 45%. In fourth place, Germany, which was the top anti-Korea with 65% in the survey 4 years ago, was 32%. The impression of South Korea is still by far the worst. By the way, in the 13-year survey, Japan was 13th in dislike Korea. The latest survey is not included in the survey. Similarly, Koreans are excluded from the survey in Japan. It is believed that the relationship between Japan and South Korea at that time was taken into consideration. Still, the trend of anti-Korean is a global trend. Why is South Korea hated by all over the world? Critic Katsumi Muratani: severe racism, irresponsible corporate night escape, violence, and forged original claims. It is said that the cause is. What is special is China, which is said to be similar to South Korea. It means that he hates Korea the most in the world. Looking back on the history so far, it is a terrible story that China, which has long been the suzerain of South Korea, hates its client state, South Korea. In fact, in China, which has become the #1 disliked South Korea is Santaku to the United States by deciding to install a terminal high-altitude defense missile, THAAD. Chinese tourists have cancelled their trip to South Korea all at once and have been in a turmoil. Even in China, the stance of being bullish if there is no actual harm is disgusting. Why do Chinese hate Koreans? Actually, when I asked a Chinese guide on the spot, the answer was, Koreans often deceive Chinese. With the expansion of the Chinese economy, the number of transactions between China and South Korea increased. It seems that many Korean companies have expanded into the Tohoku region of China, which is close to South Korea. However, when a local Chinese company deals with a Korean company, it starts to default on payment. It is said that he was often deceived by Korean companies. To take the Chinese who often deceive the Japanese as a sword, after all, Korean lies are one of the best in the world and are ahead of China. In addition, it seems that he will not run away at night. In fact, in China, people from the Tohoku region and Shandong province, where many Korean companies are expanding, are better. I feel like I hate Koreans more than people in other regions. One of the reasons may be that there is a lot of friction due to frequent contact with Koreans. Korean business owners receive a large number of products but do not meet their debts, or they may go missing without paying their employees. Night escape is recognized in China as a typical fraudulent method for Korean companies. Some Chinese dislike Koreans not only because of friction between companies but also because of troubles between individuals. When I asked a Chinese woman who works at a bar, it is said that many Korean customers violently change their attitude toward female clerk when they drink alcohol. Also, when paying, it seems that some people try to step down with various reasons. He said at the bar that Koreans tend to be disliked. According to this Chinese woman, a Japanese customer said, "I have a lot of touches, but I can still forgive it because I can pay for it." I can't forgive anything, from Korea. The Korean origin theory, that is familiar in Japan. In other words, making everything, from South Korea, is also the reason why Chinese people hate Koreans. Frequently mentioned are, Danabushi, and Kanji. South Korea. In 2005 I applied for and registered the Gangneung Danoye Festival, in my country as a UNESCO World Intangible Cultural Heritage. In response to this South Korean move, there was a great deal of criticism in China for cultural theft. It will raise anti-Korean sentiment. Regarding some Korean claims that kanji is a Korean invention, in China, there are many voices pointing out the lack of grounds, while being amazed. In addition to these cultural conflicts, political conflicts are also raising anti-Korean sentiment. Specifically, it is the THAAD, ground-based missile interception system, problem that occurred in 2017. The Chinese government opposes South Korea's deployment of THAAD. We have launched an official negative campaign against South Korea. This effect was great, and according to the BBC poll in the same year, the percentage of Chinese who answered that they dislike South Korea reached 71%, far behind the second place and below. It became the top of the list. Also, racial discrimination is very severe. After 1992, China and South Korea established diplomatic relations, and Korean companies entered China. South Korea tends to look down on Chinese workers, especially Koreans, due to the superiority complex of economic development. It has a bad reputation in China as well. South Korea has also spurred a sense of superiority in economic development. They tend to discriminate against workers in countries that are less powerful than their own. China and South Korea established diplomatic relations after 1992 and promoted exchanges with Chinese Koreans. Korean Chinese. Koreans have begun migrating to South Korea. Koreans take a discriminatory attitude toward China with a sense of economic superiority. Even in South Korea, Koreans are discriminated against, and Koreans' reputation for Chinese Koreans is quite bad. South Korea's awareness of discrimination against Koreans is deep-rooted. The Jungang Ilbo even posted a column on August 26, 2008, stating that anti-Korean sentiment in China is at a dangerous level. It tells us that China's anti-Korean sentiment is spreading. China's netizens cheer for Japan in the Beijing Olympic baseball semifinal match between Japan and South Korea. The Baseball Forum of China's largest internet search site, Baidu, sushi is better than kimchi. I hate seeing kimchi in the finals. I want sushi to win. Korea must not reverse. Japan, fight. The contents such as were written. Over 90% of the comments posted in China's major communities, Koreans are a shameless people, and China should overthrow them. As a result, South Korean reports said, Chinese people who have historically been victims of Japan have the shoulders of Japan. It is beyond the bounds of common sense to have an antipathy toward Koreans who are the same victims. Chinese netizens, Koreans are cheeky toward their husband, China, even though they are former client states. Let's work with Japan to leave South Korea alone. It reveals anti-Korean feelings. On the other hand, the Korean side, I am jealous of South Korea's rapid economic growth, which I have historically considered to be a client state of my country. On the one hand, it seems to be a reaction that is manifested by the deep-seated awareness of damage by the Chinese. China Post page Phoenix New Media, in Seoul, South Korea, Chinese people are not allowed to enter, in the showroom of Hyundai Motor Co., Limited. There was a sticker with, and the photo and text were posted. Chinese internet users who knew this were furious and called for a boycott of Korean products. There are also criticisms of Koreans who discriminate against Chinese tourists. According to a survey on South Korea conducted by the Chinese portal site, Global Times, for Chinese in 2009, Cultural Thief and Addict, Collective Shameless Nation. Just hearing a Korean bastard makes me sick. It is said that there were an extremely large number of opinions expressing anti-Korean sentiment. Chinese journalist Daesei Kaoru is in Weekly Playboy. Korea refuses to live permanently for Chinese people, and has a history of 5,000 years older than China. Kanji is the reason why people dislike the claim that it originated in Korea. Anti-Korean awareness is particularly high among the elderly. During World War II, he attacked China as a Japanese minion. It seems to me that you are sitting on the side of the victorious country. The best part is that he was on the US side during the Vietnam War. Subsequent economic development in South Korea, many people think of it as a US dog because of the help of the US. And analyze anti-Korean in China. In the 2000s, the 1937 Nanjing massacre was carried out by Korean soldiers of the Japanese army. Allegations have been disseminated online in China. This has also been discussed in the CCTV debate program. On October 16, 2012, in the Yellow Sea off Hongdu in Jeollanam-do, southwestern Korea, on the 16th, Korean Coast Guard fires rubber bullets while cracking down on illegally operating Chinese fishing boats. A Chinese sailor, 44, hit the chest and the sailor died. Because there are many cases in South Korea where Chinese are arrested, it is said that there are many cases where anti-Korean sentiment in China explodes. Also, according to the announcement by the Korean Coast Guard, the cause is not a rubber bullet but a heart attack. The sailor who died testified that he resisted by swinging a knife and hitting a member with an iron pipe. However, as a result of the autopsy, it was determined that he had died from a rubber bullet. In troubles over illegal fishing, an incident occurred in which a member of the maritime police was killed by a Chinese sailor engaged in illegal fishing. It's a big problem. According to the Sankey Shimbun, in the Chinese internet community, in response to the Korean writing that ridicules the Sichuan earthquake that occurred on April 20, 2013, it is said that anti-Korean sentiment erupted. The deployment of THAAD missiles in South Korea in 2017 heightened China's anti-Korean sentiment. At the Lot Group supermarket that provided the site, you can damage the displayed products, or a video that slanders Lot has appeared online. At one hotel, a Taeguk flag with the words, "Let's step on the Korean guys," was laid at the doorway. You can't go inside unless you step on the Taeguk flag. He put up a guide saying, "Dog and Koreans are not allowed to enter or leave without permission." At a fitness center in Tianjin, the flag of South Korea was torn to pieces. It was said that it was left hanging in a punching bag. Held in Chengdu, China on May 29, 2019, a total of 4 countries, China, South Korea, Thailand and New Zealand, participated in the final round of the Panda Cup for U18, the Korean national team, after defeating the China national team 3-0, trampling the trophy at the victory ceremony. I made a gesture to urinate. This situation spread on Chinese social media such as Weibo. On the 30th of the same month, due to the fierce anger of the Chinese side, the Korea Republic Football Association has written an apology to the Chinese Football Association and the Chengdu Football Association. Due to the worsening situation, such as the Chinese people's opposition did not subside, the Korean team also held an emergency press conference at the hotel. "I apologize again for hurt the feelings of the Chinese people. Officially apologize to the Chinese." The game's organizing committee has stripped the winning trophy awarded to South Korea. Chosun Ilbo reports on the first trophy deprivation situation in history. It is expected to have an adverse effect on the future. Stimulating the anti-Korean sentiment of the Chinese people, the external image of Korean soccer was hit by a considerable amount. It is reported that the Chengdu Football Association, which hosted the Panda Cup, in an interview with the Chinese media, said, "Korea insulted the Panda Cup and all participating countries and fans. The Korean team will not be invited to the tournament in the future," he said. China's China Sports on the Korean side, the captain, the coach and even the Korea Republic Football Association apologized. But this was just an apology for behavior that lacked sportsmanship. They, Korea, still deserve contempt for Chinese football. Expressed anger. "I haven't participated this time. The Japanese soccer team and fans who had won consecutive championships behaved completely differently." Praised the national character of Japan. Experts talk about the background of this type of problem behavior in South Korea. Korean spiritual culture is a vertical culture. There is a culture of looking down on others. There are places where the upper ranks are willing to do anything to the lower ranks. It is explained. Calling ripples of problematic behavior all over the world. German magazine, Der Spiegel, celebrated in an inappropriate pose. British public broadcaster, BBC, is barbaric and vulgar. Vietnamese newspaper, Ton 9, it is reported as a slanderous and aggressive celebration. The Chinese Football Association tells the Asian Football Confederation, AFC, I have filed a lawsuit regarding the problematic behavior of Korean players. Oh my god, it's an ugly battle. But when it comes to sports, is China so proud? I don't think there are as many eco-friendly things as Korea. I don't say, nothing at all. Even if you look at table tennis, the strength of Chinese people is so respectable. With most efforts, no player is as strong as that. Growing up such a strong player is quite severe in sports. I think that the policy that, strong ones win, is thorough. I don't think there is room for frauds such as fraud and eco-favorite. In that sense, I feel the history of the great power, Han Man. So, in Korea, I would like you to start by looking in the mirror and looking at yourself. Koreans lie. Chinese people were still better, is the word of an old lady who lived on the pre-war peninsula. The Japanese, and people all over the world, should never forget this word. Don't be fooled by Korean lies. That's all.